Welcome guys, this is Argor41 and we're here with Duel 53. We're facing Argor42 and I'm using a Photon deck this time. And guess what? It is another deck request. This deck request was made by Crunchology. And the original deck request was to make a deck that can easily summon Neo Galaxy's Photon Dragon. And there's quite a lot of cards in this deck that can help easily summoning that card and other level 8 Xyz monsters. And in the end I just decided to make it a Photon deck because it works really well. So here in my first turn I play Photon Thrasher. It can be special summoned from your hand if you don't control any monsters. Then I play Future Fusion and reveal my fusion monster, Twin Photon Lizard, sending 2 Galaxy-sized Photon Dragons to the graveyard so I can possibly revive them again later would Twin Photon Lizard ever hit the field. But unfortunately it's never going to hit the field because what the opponent does next turn. I set Royal Decree to stop trap cards later on, but then the opponent comes out with Heavy Storm. Yeah, bye cards. Long time. No good time knowing you. Then he plays Gold Sarcophagus thinking it's Pot of Duality. I'm like, what? Apparently he did have Pot of Duality in his hand, which he'll reveal in a second, but he was just like, what? Yeah. He thought he clicked on Duality and then just went with the Duality effect. But he played Gold Shark first, so he's now first going to banish a Rescue Rabbit and then play Pot of Duality. And an interesting card I saw was Exodios, the Ultimate Forbidden Lord. And as you'll see later, he has quite a bit of normal monsters. Djinn, Werewolf, Furs, Heliotrope, I believe it's called. And I've never really used Exodios in any deck. Usually it's used with Exodia pieces, but this one isn't. Doesn't have to be. But I'm wondering how, I know the opponent will be watching this, and Argor42, I'd like you to say how well does Exodios work in your deck, because I'm interested to know. My turn again. I got Photon Sanctuary. I got a plan. Photon Sanctuary. Summoning 2 Photon tokens. Tribute them to summon Galaxy-Eyes Photon Dragon. Play Galaxy Queen's Light. Change Photon Thrasher to level 8 because Galaxy-Eyes is level 8. Then I overlay my 2 level 8 monsters and Xyz summon Heretic Sun Dragon Overlord of Heliopolis. Then use its effect, detaching the Xyz material, that being Photon Thrasher, tributing a monster in my hand, Photon Thrasher, and then attack directly. Now I know my opponent has Tragudia in their hand, which can be special summoned from the hand if you take battle damage. But I'm like, why don't you summon it? It may then only have 1200 attack and defense because it has 600 attack and defense for every card in your hand. The opponent doesn't use it. I'm like, why? But the opponent has quite a good strategy because he knows he needs to get rid of Heretic Sun Dragon. Here's where he summons it. I'm like, why do you do it now and not earlier? You'll see in a second. Because now he draws a card, gets Rescue Rabbit to his hand, because it's the second turn after Gold Sarcophagus. Now he has 5 cards in his hand, meaning 5 times 600, 3000 attack for Tragudia. He can take care of my dragon. Good job on his part. And then in main phase 2, he places a card face down and summons Djinn, Warped Werewolf. I play Royal Decree to stop any of his traps, but I don't really draw into anything good, so I can't do much more here. Need like Photon Thrasher next turn or something. Annoying. I want to win this, but yeah, I don't win everything, so. Then he uses Rescue Rabbit's effect to special summon 2 Evil Swarm Heliotropes, and together with Djinn, Warped Werewolf, they all attack directly for tons of damage. 5,900 in total to be exact. And then in main phase 2, the 2 Evil Swarm Heliotropes are overlaid to special summon Evil Swarm Ophion. And thanks to Ophion's effect, I can't special summon anything that is level 5 or higher, so yeah. And then I get Photon Trident, which doesn't really work anything because I don't have any Photon monsters. Helpful. Not. So yeah, the opponent just attacks directly once more and ends the game. Thanks Argor42 for the duel. I enjoyed it. Ladies and gentlemen, this was Deck Request. Number so much. See you later. And here we are. We are in the deck profile. For this next deck request, it is Neo Galaxy, as I call it, or, well, a Photon deck. Alright, this deck includes 3 Galaxy-Eyes Photon Dragons. Should be clear because that was kind of part of the deck request, have Galaxy-Eyes Photon Dragon in it. Strong level 8 dragon, 3000 attack, 2500 defense, with a good ability that can banish both it and the monster it's battling. Still in the damage step, but since it's a quick effect, it can actually chain onto Mirror Force would the opponent use it, so that way you can survive. And if the opponent has an Xyz monster, and you attack with Galaxy Eyes but you banish both, then the opponent through that loses its Xyz material, and when Galaxy Eyes and that Xyz monster return to the field at the end of the battle phase, Galaxy Eyes gains attack equal to the Xyz material that the opponent had before. So that's awesome. Alright, it's a Photon deck, so it has, except for these 2 guys, it has only light monsters, so Honest should always be on a light deck, I would say. King of the Swamp to search out Polymerization, but since I have 2 Polymerization and 2 King of the Swamp, once I get Polymerization via a normal draw, one of the King of the Swamps will be dead. So, I'm thinking of taking one out, but until now I haven't really had any problems with that, so I'm keeping them in for now. I have 3 Photon Crushers, strong monster, 2000 attack points, and when it attacks it is changed to defense position at the end of the damage step. But for now, I'm really liking it, 2000 attack, strong beater, and it can be used for some really good Xyz monsters, which I'll explain when I get to the extra deck. I have 3 Photon Kaisers. The person who made the deck request, which was Crunch, $G, he also told me to use Photon Kaiser because it's really helpful, because when it's normal or flip summoned, you can special summon a Photon Kaiser from your hand or deck, which means that you'll have at least 2 level 8 monsters on the field, meaning you can go into a level 8 Xyz. Furthermore, I have 3 copies of Photon Lizard. Photon Lizard is kind of a weak monster, ranked level 3 as well, but its effects let you tribute it and add 1 level 4 or lower Photon from your deck to your hand, and the effect of Photon Lizard can only be used once per turn. But that does mean it needs to be on the field, and that's usually through a normal summon. So usually what I do with this card is, when I don't have any monsters on the field, I normal summon it, then tribute it to get Photon Thrasher, which I'll get to in a second, and then use Photon Thrasher's effect to get it on the field. Next up, I have 3 copies of Photon Sabre Tiger. When it's normal or flip summoned, you can add 1 Photon Sabre Tiger from your deck to your hand. But if you do not control another Photon Sabre Tiger, this card loses 800 attack, meaning it's only at 1200. But as soon as you have 2 Photon Sabre Tigers, you'll have 2,000 attack points monsters, which I find really helpful. Then, 3 copies of Photon Thrasher. Photon Thrasher cannot be normal summoner set, but there must be some kind of restriction if it has 2100 attack. It must first be special summoned from your hand while you control monsters. Meaning, the first time it is special summoned, it has to be from your hand. After that, it can also be special summoned from the grave with cards like Monster Reborn or whatever. But first, it needs to be summoned from your hand with this effect. Some people compare it to Cyber Dragon, like the Cyber Dragon of Photons, or the Vice Dragon of the Dragons, but both Cyber Dragon and Vice Dragon need the opponent to have a monster. This one doesn't. Vice Dragon halves its attack and defense once it's special summoned through its effect. Photon Thrasher cannot attack if you control another monster, which is kind of unfortunate, I guess. So in that sense, Cyber Dragon is the more useful card. But I really like though that it's a warrior level 4, and it can be really helpful getting you a special summon in, because then you special summon him, and then normal summon like something like Photon Crusher, and then you can Xyz summon into, well, this guy or that guy or this one. I'll get to those later. The rest of the deck, I have one copy of Dark Hole, destroying all monsters on the field, one copy of Future Fusion, allowing me to reveal a fusion monster, which is Twin Photon Lizard, and then send its fusion materials that it needs from my deck to the graveyard, which I can then revive with like Monster Reborn. I have 3 copies of Galaxy Queen's Light. I knew that this card would come in handy sometime because I quite like it. What Galaxy Queen's Light does is, if you have a face-up level 7 or higher monster on the field, then until the end phase, all of your face-up monsters you currently control become the level of that monster. So let's say I have a Photon Thrasher, a Photon Sabre Tiger, and then I'm able to summon a Galaxy-Ice Photon Dragon. Then I can use Galaxy Queen's Light, targeting Galaxy-Ice Photon Dragon, making Leo and Thrasher level 8, meaning I could either go for an Xyz monster that requires 2 level 8s or even 3 level 8s, which I do have one of. Furthermore, I have Heavy Storm to nuke the field with any spells and traps. I have one I have one copy of Monster Reborn to bring back monsters from either player's graveyard. This can combine very well with Future Fusion, dropping like a Galaxy Ice in the grave. I have one copy of Photon Lead, allowing it's a sorry guys, I have a little cold. Anyway, Photon Lead is a quick play spell that lets you special summon one level 4 or lower light monster from your hand in face-up attack position. Photon Sanctuary, very useful card in this deck because it lets you special summon 2 Photon tokens, which have 2000 attack, and they're both summoned in defense position. The tokens cannot be used as synchro material, but this deck doesn't focus at all on synchros, so that doesn't matter. And you cannot summon other monsters the turn you activate this card, except for light monsters, which I don't really mind because most of my monsters are light. So a strategy with Photon Sanctuary could be play Photon Sanctuary, summon the 2 tokens, tribute them for Photon Kaiser, because you haven't used your normal summon yet and Photon Kaiser is light. Use its effect to summon another Kaiser and go into a rank 8 Xyz. You can also summon Galaxy Eyes by tributing for a tribute summon. But Galaxy Eyes has an effect, which means you can special summon it from your hand by tributing 2 monsters with 2000 or more attack. So let's say you have a Photon Crusher in your hand as well. You play Sanctuary, normal summon Crusher, and then tribute the 2 tokens with 2000 attack to special summon Galaxy Eyes. That way you'll have 2 monsters on the field. Then I have 2 copies of the quick play spell Photon Trident. Its effects let you target one face-up Photon monster you control, which gains 700 attack. And if it attacks a defense position monster, piercing damage is inflicted. And during the turn that Photon Trident affects that monster, when it inflicts battle damage to the opponent, during that turn, you can trigger one spell or trap card on the field and destroy it. And this effect lasts until the end phase, also the attack boost. I have 2 copies of Polymerization to fuse any of my photons into Twin Photon Lizard. Twin Photon Lizard might not be all that strong, but its effect is very useful. Let's say I have 2 Galaxy Eyes in my hand. I play Polymerization, fusing these 2 to summon Twin Photon Lizard. But Twin Photon Lizard can be tributed to special summon from the graveyard both of the fusion materials used for the fusion summon. And I use 2 Galaxy Eyes, so I can use Polymerization, get Twin Photon Lizard out, use its effect to get Galaxy Eyes out. 2 of them even. Or any other monster that I used. You just need to be careful with Photon Thrasher, because if you fuse it from your hand, that means it hasn't been properly special summoned before, so you can't summon him. Next up is Super Polymerization. This card, it's a quick play spell, so you can actually also use that on your opponent's turn. Its effect allows you to discard 1 card, and then you send from either side of the field to the graveyard, so it doesn't have to exactly be from your own. Fusion material monsters that are listed on a fusion monster card, and then you special summon a monster from your extra deck. but it is treated as a fusion summon, just like with Polymerization. Spells, traps, and card effects cannot be activated in response to this card's activation. Nothing can be chained onto that. Not Magic Jammer, not Dark Bribe, not even Shooting Quasar Dragon. So if you're using this in an Omni Hero deck, this thing can stop Quasar because Quasar's effect can't stop Super Poly because nothing can be chained onto it. If I have this card, what I usually use it for is I have 2 strong photons on the field. I'll attack with them, then use Super Poly, fuse them into Twin Photon Lizard for another attack. And then usually in the main phase 2 I'll tribute it to get my monsters back, because together they're stronger. As you can see, this deck doesn't really include any traps. I have 3 copies of Royal Decree, which is a continuous trap that negates the effects of all other trap cards on the field. In the extra deck I have a 3rd King of the Swamp, just in case I feel like using it, a 3rd Photon Trident. I have Photon Veil, which lets you shuffle 3 light monsters from your hand into your deck, and then add 1 to 3 level 4 or lower lights from your deck to your hand. And if you add 2 or more, they have to be of the same name. This card can be useful, but it's sometimes that I have 3 or more lights in my hand and I don't necessarily need them, but when I want to add 3 back, they have to be of the same name, and I would prefer like 1 Thrasher, 1 Crusher, and then 1 Galaxy Eyes or something. So I haven't really found that much use in it. That's why I only have 1 in the extra deck. I have a 3rd Polymerization to fuse stuff for Twin Photon Lizard and then get big monsters out, as explained before. 3 copies of Pot of Duality, because Pot of Duality can be a really helpful searcher, but this deck relies quite a bit on special summons, and the turn you activate Pot of Duality, you can't special summon, so that's why I don't have it in the main deck, but I might change it up a bit later. I have 1 copy of Bottomless Trap Hole. Stop stuff. It doesn't exactly work that well with Royal Decree already on the field, but that's why I have it in the side deck. 2 copies of Photon Current. When a face-up light dragon type monster you control is targeted for an attack, so Galaxy Eyes. In this case, the attack target, so Galaxy Eyes, gains attack equal to the attacking monster's attack until the end of the damage step. So let's say it's attacked by 5-headed dragon with 5,000 attack points. Then Photon Current would increase Galaxy Eyes' attack by 5,000 to 8,000, meaning it overpowers 5-headed dragon with 3,000 points. Then I have 2 copies of Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, a continuous trap that has this as its effect. When the effect of a dark monster activates on the field or in the graveyard, negate it. I have only light monsters, and I don't have any darks, so that's fine by me. Well, I have a few darks in my extra deck, but I don't use those that often, per se. I'll just watch out with using them when I use Shadow Imprisoning Mirror. I have 1 copy of Solid Warding to negate summons, and even negate card effects that summon. 1 copy of Neo Galaxy Eyes. Don't use it that often, that's why I only have 1 in the extra deck, and then I use the 2nd in the side. And 1 Wind-Up Zenmaines, because I don't have any rank 3 Xyz monsters, but I do have Sabre, Tiger, and Lizard, which might want to use 1 Zenmaines in the future. In the extra deck I have 3 copies of Twin Photon Lizard. Should be clear why, because I have Polymerization, Super Poly to get the monsters out, Future Fusion. Lavalval Chain, I have Lavalval Chain can add a certain monster you really want from your deck to the top of your deck, possibly Honest, possibly Photon Thrasher do you want a special summon, or it can send any card from your deck to your grave, like Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon if you have Monster Reborn. Who knows, you can think of a couple of combos with that. Maestroke the Symphony Djinn, sort of a Book of Moonish effect, but the monster does have to be in base-up attack position for that to work, and if it would be destroyed, you can detach an Xyz material instead. Heroic Champion Excalibur needs 2 warrior-type monsters, so that's Crusher and Thrasher, or 2 Crushers or 2 Thrashers, and once per turn you can detach 2 Xyz materials from this card, and until the opponent's end phase, so not your own, but actually your opponent's turn, this card's attack becomes double its original attack, meaning it's at 4,000 until the end of the opponent's turn. So, if you need a really strong monster with a really high attack, this is the guy to go for. But I also have Blade Armor Ninja, which also requires 2 level 4 warriors. This one, once per turn, you can detach one Xyz material to trigger one face-up ninja monster you control, and Blade Armor Ninja is the only ninja I have, so I usually go for him, because I don't have any other targets. And the monster you target this turn can attack twice during each battle phase. So in the end, this one has 2 times 2200 attack, which is 4400 attack. If you need to pass like a monster with 3000 attack, let's say the opponent has a Galaxy Eyes, then Excalibur will be preferred because it can actually get past that monster. But if it's not that you really need to get past a certain point higher than 2000, then Blade Armor Ninja is usually preferred for me because it can attack and then attack again, and in total it will inflict more damage, even though it won't keep the attack boost until the end of the opponent's turn. Meaning, in that sense, Excalibur can survive the opponent's turn a little easier. I have one copy of number 50 Blackhorn. Once per turn, you can detach one Xyz material from this card to target one monster your opponent controls with attack lower than or equal to this card, and send that card to the graveyard, and inflict 1000 damage to your opponent. So this card can easily get past Gachi Gachi Ganzetsu, Wind-Up Zenmaines, and those kind of cards. Photon Papilloperative. When the opponent has a defense position monster, you can detach one Xyz material from this card. Switch the defense position monster your opponent controls to face-up attack position, and if you do, that monster loses 600 attack points. I have number 39 Utopia. Should be very clear why I use it. Very useful rank 4 Xyz, 2500 attack, and it can negate up to 2 attacks with its effect. I have one copy of number 15 Gimmick Puppet, a Giant Killer. And Giant Killer, 2 level 8 monsters. Not that high attack, but up to twice per turn. During your main phase 1, you can detach one Xyz material from this card and target a special summon monster your opponent controls. So any monster that has been special summoned, and that monster is then destroyed. And if that target was an Xyz monster, then Giant Killer will even inflict damage to your opponent equal to that Xyz monster's original attack. Dang, I'm still tired. Ugh. Anyway, I have number 40 Gimmick Puppet Heaven Strings. I have it in there twice. Once per turn, you can attach one Xyz material from this card, put one string counter on each face-up monster on the field. During your opponent's next end phase, destroy all monsters with the string counters and inflict 500 damage to your opponents for each monster destroyed by this effect. So if the opponent isn't able to get rid of their own monsters during their own turn, they're going to get destroyed anyway, and damage will be inflicted. But I don't exactly use Heaven Strings that often. I use this one quite a bit more, so you know, for now I am actually going to swap out Heaven Strings for Zenmaines, because I really don't use Heaven Strings often, and I'll probably be using Zenmaines a bit more, so I've hereby switched things around. I have one copy of Heretic Sun Dragon, Overlord of Heliopolis. 2 level 8 monsters. Once per turn, you can detach one Xyz material from this card. Tribute any number of monsters from your hand and or your side of the field. So let's say you have a Photon Lizard on your field, you can tribute it along with a Photon Thrasher from your hand, and then destroy an equal number of cards in the field. And this card is able to destroy multiple cards, but it can't be stopped by Starlight Road. Because Starlight Road, it's chained onto an effect after the cost is paid, but the cost here is only you can detach one Xyz material from this card. At that moment, you don't yet know if the opponent is going to destroy one or more cards, so it's possible the opponent is just going for one, and then Starlight Road can't activate. That's why that card doesn't work. I find this card really useful because, one, it's a light. So if you play Photon Sanctuary and then Photon Kaiser, get the second, you can summon this guy, and it has a useful effect. And then finally was pretty much the main guy in the deck request, Neo Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon. Requires 3 level 8 monsters, 4500 attack. When this card is Xyz summoned using Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon as any of its Xyz materials, negate the effects of all other face-up cards currently on the field. And once per turn, you can detach one Xyz material from Neo Galaxy Eyes, and all monsters your opponent controls, all of their Xyz materials are detached, so all of them are sent to the graveyard. And then, for every Xyz material detached that way, Neo Galaxy Eyes gains 500 attack. So let's say you remove 3 Xyz material, it gets to 6,000 attack. And it can attack up to that many times that turn. So let's say it attaches 3 Xyz material, then it can attack up to 3 times per turn with 6,000 attack points. But if the opponent doesn't have any Xyz monsters with Xyz material, it's not all that useful that much, so I usually only use Neo Galaxies when the opponent actually has Xyz monsters. Alright guys, I believe that is it for this deck request. CrunchRG, you are now allowed to make a new one. Would you want it? But I have a couple others to work on, so I'll be doing that first as well. I've also got a deck profile request in, which I'll probably be making in the weekend. Alright guys, this was Alka193. See you later.